after 9. Enjoy performances by Tumbleweed Chorus, Prairie Rose Harmony, members of the Hayes High Plains Chorus, and Barbershop Quartets. No cost or registration is needed. Just come sing along and enjoy refreshments afterwards. Get ready for a night of country hits. NWKS Radio's Country Legend Concert brings you the frontmen, featuring Richie McDonald of Lone Star, Larry Stewart of Restless Heart, and Tim Rushlow of Little Texas, to the Colby Event Center. Special guests include Brock Wagner and Dylan Gerard. Doors will open at 6 p.m. and tickets start at $25. Get yours today at nwksradio.net. For more information on this and other stories, visit nwksradio.net.
Rocket 102.5.
Today will be cooler with highs in the 60 to 65 degree range. Nice with partly cloudy skies and light north winds turning to southeast at 5 to 15 miles per hour. Also looks to be a dry day with high pressure sitting over the region. Tonight through Thursday morning, a cutoff low will eject out of the southwest through Oklahoma and Kansas City. This will keep most of the rain to the south and east of us until tomorrow evening, when we could see some scattered showers or an isolated storm. Tonight's lows will be warmer around 45 and tomorrow's highs 70 to 75 with south winds around 10 miles per hour. Behind a cool front and the rain chances and a wind shift to the north at 10 to 20 miles per hour, Thursday's highs will be cooler in the mid to upper 60s and lows in the lower 40s. Friday and Saturday, an upper level ridge will set over the region, and it will be nice with highs 70 to 75 and lows 40 to 45. This is meteorologist Chris Schromick in the NWKS Radio Weather Center.
Kansas Farm and Ranch Radio is the place to turn to weekdays for the latest agriculture news and markets. Being a member of the National Association of Farm Broadcasters, we take pride in making sure you're informed of the latest news from the world of agriculture. Whether it's local, state, regional, or national, if it affects your farm or ranch, you can count on hearing it here. Daily reports from Kansas Farm and Ranch Radio are made possible by Farmers State Bank, Norder Supply of Scott City, Cornerstone Ag, and Woofter Construction and Irrigation.
Get ready for powerful deals at Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland, Kansas. Right now, drive home a 25 GMC Sierra 1500 Turbo Max with 0.9% financing or up to $7,800 in purchase allowance. Step up in luxury in a 2025 Sierra 1500 Denali and get up to $5,250 in purchase allowance. Or take on any job with the 25 Sierra 2500 with 3.9% APR or up to $2,700 in purchase allowance. These offers won't last. Rush into Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland today or shop online at hurlchev.com.
Looking for insurance that actually puts you first? At the insurance agency in downtown Goodland, we're independent, which means we work for you. Whether it's auto, home, crop, or business, we shop top carriers to get you the best coverage at the best price. No pushy sales, just honest advice from people who live right here in your community. Give us a call today at 785-899-5011 or stop by 1020 Main in Goodland and let's get you covered. The Insurance Agency. Insurance the way it should be.
If you're shopping for a banking institution, visit with Equity Bank of Hoxie, Grinnell, and Quinter, Kansas. The Equity Bank is heavily invested in local business and activities contributing in many ways back to their community. Their employees are involved with many organizations and area events. Plus, a lot of experience comes with that staff. You'll find valuable local assistance when you bank at the Equity Bank of Hoxie, Grinnell, Quinter, and other locations in Western Kansas. The Equity Bank, member FDIC.
Have you heard of Van the Morton Man? Back in Colby, where the legacy began. 100 years strong, building right, building grand. When you build with Morton, it's always as planned. From barns to workshops, garages to sheds, Morton's quality where every smart builder heads. Owned by employees, their hearts in each frame, a warranty that shines, a well-known name. So choose Morton Buildings with a history so vast, quality and care that's always meant to last. Meet them today and get your plan in hand. Crafted with pride by Van the Morton Man.
At FNB Bank, we know family comes first. Whether you're opening a savings account for your kids, buying a new home, or planning for the future, we're here to help every step of the way. With personalized service and flexible options, we make banking easy for your growing family. FNB Bank, serving families, strengthening communities. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Northwest Kansas Jiu-Jitsu offers Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai classes in a fun, family-focused environment. Your safety and the safety of your family is important to us, and we want everyone to learn self-defense. We are located in Goodland at 602 Caldwell and in Colby at 1035 Taylor. Make sure to book your first free class at nwksjujitsu.com or call Coach Amy at 785-728-7997.
You ready? Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4!
It's the Morning Blitz with Ross Volkmer.
Give me my cane. I'll show you how to play this game.
The region's only local sports talk.
Dynamite drop-in at broadcast school has really paid off.
Broadcasting on Goodland's Rocket 102.5, simulcasting on Goodland's 730 Gold KLOE.
Guy is everywhere.
Discussing it all from the preps.
Touchdown, the Cowboys!
To the pros.
And Tendy back on the track. It's out of here. Bobby Witt Jr. delivers a go-ahead grand slam.
The Blitz is presented by Pearl Chevrolet GMC, Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware, and F&B Bank, as well as the Insurance Agency, Farmer State Bank in Oakley, the Cowboy Corner Express, and Equity Bank of Hoxie, Quinter, and Grinnell.
Let's go to work.
Hunter swings, hits it pretty well to left field. Going back for Dugo at the wall. It is out of here. Touch him all time. Hunter Goodman. 3-0 Rockies.
Up by Brandlett. Back the other way comes Hintz. Driving the net. Rantanen. He's got it. Score! Against his old team. Rantanen for the first time in this series.
3-1. Swinging a drive in the air. Deep left center field. Away. Back and gone. A pinch hit grand slam for Dane Myers.
Good Tuesday morning, everybody. We are back here on the Morning Blitz. As always, broadcasting on Goodland's Rocket 102.5, nwksradio.net, the Hurl Chevrolet GMC video stream, as well as, of course, you can see that on X, Facebook, and YouTube. So glad you're with us here on this 29th. Once again, looking back yesterday, thank you so much for all the messages, the phone calls, walking in the street saying happy birthday. Really appreciate that here as we push on into year number 36 for yours truly. We got a lot to get into here in today's program. We're going to be talking some local sports with Ryan Mosier. He is the head coach, of course, of Colby High School track and field, also the football coach there for CHS. We'll be visiting with him coming up here in today's program and talk with him about the 2025 track season that the Colby Eagles are having. A pretty solid one so far. The girls have had some really good showings. Boys have had some decent ones as well. And so we will talk about that with him coming up here in our second segment today. Our guest today, once again, Ryan Mosier, head coach of Colby High School track and field in his second season, I believe. It might be his third, but I think it's the second season. We will also get to today. We will talk about the ending of the Jayhawk Community College Conference softball season. Maybe take a look at where Colby Community College will be playing in the postseason in the Region 6 tournament. Fort Hays Tech Northwest, a difference into their season. Also a little bit of some more local sports, talking some golf and what to expect today with baseball and softball and other things happening today. And then also Rockies making some history being made over there across the border for the Colorado Rockies. We'll get to that coming up in segment 3. So, and then we are going to talk some big emails that were dumped, the kind of the Friday news dump, as they like to call it in the industry, from Keisha this past Friday, talking about their board and approving several different changes across multiple different sports. So we will get to that coming up here in today's program. As always, if you'd like to be part of the Morning Blitz, we'd love to hear from you. 785-899-2222 is the number part of the Morning Blitz each and every day. So chime in on our text line at 785-899-2222, the F&B Bank text line, that is. And we will get those thoughts and comments on the air. So lots of things to get to here on a Tuesday show. But starting off once again with Keisha. Starting off there. So Friday, they had announced that Keisha, the legislative boards, have approved several changes. They announced this once again this past Friday evening, and dumped it all on us and then kind of had to sift through it. There's 3 changes being made in particular to 3 different sports. For those who have not seen this or have not read this yet or heard about it. So they're making changes to volleyball, basketball, and a slight change in football. So I'm going to start with football just because I don't think it's a humongous impact. Maybe a little bit, but it depends on it's a numbers thing. So The Acacia Board of Directors made an adjustment to the classification limits for eligible teams to compete here in the upcoming seasons in 8-man and 6-man football. So this has to do with the smaller schools. So the way I read it is they are now for 8-player district football applications. So to be an 8-man football team, assignment shall be limited to those schools with a maximum enrollment of 110 students between the grades of 9 through 11. And then for 6-man schools, that number will now be a maximum enrollment of 65 students in grades 9, 10, and 11. So they are changing the numbers a little bit and saying, you can, if you're going to be an 8-man school, the maximum amount of enrollment of students that you can have from 9 through 11 is 110 students. That's the maximum you can have before you may have to possibly make that jump up into the next classification. That's how I read that. Now, once again, some of this stuff can be a little bit confusing for yours truly, but I read that is they are limiting these schools with a maximum enrollment of 110 students, 9 through 10, 9, 10, 11. That's for 8-man players, for 8-man game, I should say. And for the 6-man game, you can't have any more than 65 students to be, because if you say you're 66 or higher, you're going to be an 8-man team. But if you're 65 and under, you can play in 6-man football. And the reason why they're doing this, I would assume, once again, is because you're seeing some schools that go out there and, they're bumping the limit of how many kids they can have, but they're out there. Maybe they have, who knows, they might have 20-some kids out for the football team in 6-man, and some schools only have 8, and so they're trying to, and once again, I don't know how much this impacts it because, sometimes you could just have a really big girls class, a really good big girls class in either 9, 10, or 11, and maybe a small boys class, and that could impact it as well. So I don't know how much this is going to impact our schools here. I would assume it's going to impact in some sort of fashion over the next couple of years with the schools in our area. Although, I don't know, for most of them, they're going to be playing 8-man football. They're going to be in that range. We might see more impacted on the 6-man side. The 65 students might see more kids or more teams possibly be playing 6-man football in the future. We'll see from our listening area. We'll find out. But anyway, making some changes there in for Acacia with the football. Once again, they're going to limit the schools with the maximum enrollment of 110 students in grades 9 through 11. They have to play 8-man football. So if you're at 1, 11, 12, 13, you're probably going to be moving up. But if you're below that, you can stay in 8-man football as long as you're above 66 and above, because 65 students and below, that will now be for 6-man football, ages 9, 10 grades 9 through 11. So that change will go in effect here for this next upcoming football districting cycle. So that will be the next one coming up here. So they're trying once again to kind of limit teams who are on the bubble. They're kind of moving the bubble line so that there's not so many students. Some 6-man teams have a ton of kids and some have absolutely none. And those, it's hard to be competitive. So that's going to be a big change, or a slight change, I should say. Another change coming from Acacia, once again, their executive board making some improvements, announcing this past Friday, is that they're going to do some big things to state volleyball, is that they are going to the traditional two-day format for state will now be played across 3 days in every single classification except 1A Division II, which I don't quite get why, if I'm being honest with you. But every class, 1A, D1, all the way up to 6A, they're now going to play it across 3 days. But D2 volleyball is going to remain the same. Why that is, I don't know. Why just one classification out of all of them? We're going to change them. But anyway, going to be 2 days of competition in each classification. But of the 3 sites with 2 classifications, hence like 3A and 4A competing in Hutch, for example, the teams will alternate days of pool play, with the top teams from each pool advancing to play the semifinals, consolation, and finals on Saturday. So once again, they're going to make it a 2-day format, but it's going to be more, I guess, the way I read it, more like kind of the state basketball tournament was, where, you may play on a Wednesday, get Thursday off, and then semifinals Friday, Saturday, or then Friday, Saturday, kind of like that. It's going to be somewhat like that, where you're maybe not all going in and trying to force everything to play right away and cram in, you have a morning session and an afternoon, evening session at state volleyball. Now they're going to try and kind of spread that out a little bit more. There's a quote from Executive Director Sarah Smith. This decision was made more about what's best for the student athlete. The 2-day format puts students in a situation where we're competing well into the night, sometimes at midnight. This allows for teams to be well rested before their most important match of the year. And so even numbered classifications, 6, 4, and 2A will play Thursday, and even numbered years. Odd number classifications, 5, 3, 1A, D1 will play on Thursday during odd numbered years. And then they will, whoever does not play Thursday will play the same schedule on Friday. So, I don't know. Once again, this is more has to do with the fact, like, you'd play some, you're trying to get going early in the morning with early matches. And then, you're kind of crammed to finish it up, and then you have other people come in and play pool play later in the evening. It's just tough to do. So trying to make it a little bit more spread out. Once again, I don't really have a problem with that. That it'll be just fine, but that's how they're going to deal with that with volleyball. So they're going to kind of move things back. I know the one thing that I thought was kind of funky. This is just my personal opinion. When I was covering Goodland High School volleyball down there for state over the last couple of years, there was a time when the Cowgirls had to play in the very first game. And I know that's kind of how the seating broke down, but it kind of stunk because, in my opinion, that's a 9 a.m. game for Goodland, and it's a 10 a.m. game for everybody else. It's kind of a disadvantage right there. And I don't know why why can you move it back just to one of those slots, make a slight change? Personally, I think that would be the right thing to do, but they didn't make that change. And once again, I kind of felt like sometimes the Cowgirls had to deal with that because, that's just how the seating fell. But I think they easily could have flipped a time around or two and made it a little more fair for all the teams. Nonetheless, they will make a change. It's going to go to, instead of just being, a for sure a Friday, Saturday type situation. It's going to be possibly a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, but you're still going to play all your first round pool play games in one day and have a little bit more extra time to rest before you play on Friday, Saturday, or on the next day, whatever it may be, Friday or Saturday. So anyway, that's what's going on in volleyball. But the biggest change, and one that'll probably draw the most conversation around these parts, is that the executive board has a plan to move state basketball. The big thing is they're going to move to a shot clock. That's going to be the biggest thing. They are going to take the next step towards having the shot clock become mandatory during the postseason. Once again, this year, for those who didn't follow, you could use a shot clock if you wanted to. It was up to the host school if they wanted to use a shot clock. Goodland and Colby were example of teams that did use the shot clock. In fact, a lot of them did. But when the postseason came, the shot clocks were turned off because it was not, well, I don't want to say KSHA approved, but it wasn't approved for the postseason. So starting next year in the 25-26 season, you'll have a shot clock in the postseason for 6, 5, and 4A schools. So it will not impact our schools that much. 6, 5, and 4A schools for 2025, 2026 will have shot clock in the postseason. And then in the 26-27 season, it'll go 3A and 2A. And then that'll follow up in classes 1A, D1, and D2 in the 27-28 range. Now, I think, honestly, they probably could have lumped in 6 through 3A would be I don't know that for a fact. I know we were in Ellsworth covering Goodland Cowgirl basketball, and they did not have shot clocks up there from what I could see. So maybe they need next year. You're kind of spacing out. You know for a fact that pretty much all 6, 5, and 4A schools have been using a shot clock for the last few years. They've implemented that into their budgets. They have them built into their basketball places. They got people to run it. They're good to go. 3 through 2A, I think there's a good number of 3A schools that do, but there are some that don't, and 2A is kind of in that same boat. Maybe it's a little bit less of teams that use the shot clock. And so the 26-27, they're going to say that's going to be the postseason. Like I said, I think they can move that up, but I don't know all the 3A schools for sure and 2A schools if they got shot clocks or not. And then 1A, D1's a couple of years down the road, and D2 or 2027, 2028, and they're moving that down a little bit. That, once again, I think they're kind of phasing it in because they want the smaller schools to have to say, hey, we got to meet this goal by this year. If that means you got to start raising money for shot clocks, getting your facilities up to date so you can do that, getting the personnel in position to run the shot clock and to have extra people on hand. They're giving you a runway to try and get this all put together. This is the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do. The shot clock, no doubt, played a massive impact at state basketball here the last few years. And once again, I'm not saying it's a negative thing. I salute the teams who use the shot clock rules to their advantage. There were a lot of teams, the shot clock allows really good basketball teams to have an advantage there. And if you were the team that might be an underdog, you can use the shot clock to your advantage by keeping teams out and about like that. FNB Bank text line 785-899-2222. Let's see here. This texter says, don't like lack of a shot clock. Hurt good in the championship game, which it did. Other team was able to milk that time. They wouldn't be able to do that without the shot clock. Yes, I understand. And that's been the biggest complaint of Goodland basketball fans the last couple of years for the Cowboys, who finished runners-up consecutive years, was that the shot clock was an impact in the postseason. Teams were particularly Wellsville sat on the ball a lot, and other teams did it again. Heston did it again, once again, this state tournament. But guess what? They played within the rules, and they got it done. The Cowboys could have easily gotten the lead, sat on it, and done that. They didn't do that, and that's their decision, and that's okay. But that's how teams played within the rules and got it done. Now, if the shot clock was implemented as it's going to be in at least for 3A, 26 and 27, would that have changed the outcome for those games? Possibly, more than likely, but I don't know that for a fact. I think this is the right direction after seeing it in the regular season and games having good flow to them, and preventing stall ball and sitting on it. This is the right move going forward. And once again, Acacia is giving a runway, particularly to the smaller schools, to get everything in order, the finances, the updates in the facility you need to put the shot clocks up there on the baskets or wherever they need to be, and also, getting the personnel to run it. So they're going to do that. But I'm not shocked that this is happening, because I'm guessing there were a lot of people that wrote in and they love the shot clock in the regular season and hate it during the postseason. Acacia's like, all right, let's just start getting this approved now so we can get this in the game. And it does make for a better basketball game. So once again, shot clock will be coming to postseason basketball in Kansas, and every single school will have to play with one by the 27-28 season. But once again, next year it'll be 6-5 and 4A. There'll still be another year of no shot clock in the postseason for 3A, 2A, 1A D1, and 1A D2 next year. But 2 years from now, you'll have 3A and 2A, and then 3 years from now, well, actually, it's 1 year from now after this upcoming school year. But then 2 years after that, 27-28 in the smaller classification. So there will be a shot clock. Another thing that was interesting, I thought, as we move on here on, once again, some changes put up by Acacia this past Friday. This was an interesting one, is that they plan to move state basketball to 4 sites to align with membership's desire to combine championship venues, as the association did with football and soccer this school year. This is where, to me, this is the most interesting one. So the next step of the plan is to move the quarterfinal round to a select group of neutral sites. So while sites are not fully finalized, the final sites, I believe, the general premise will be to place higher seeds playing their opening round game closer to home so far as possible. Now, there will be cases where travel distance for the opponent is too great, so a neutral site in the middle of the 2 schools will be selected. This could include multiple classes playing at the same site. But there will be total of 4 sites for the state for semifinals and finals. So the way I read that, once again, I could be reading it wrong, but so over the previous handful of times that teams have gone to state, no matter if it's whoever's gone to state, you've gone there and it's usually a 3-day deal. You play Wednesday, have Thursday off, play Friday, Saturday if you're still around, or you play Thursday, Friday, Saturday if the year lines up that way for you and your classification, your size of school. That's how that all works. Now what this is saying is that, well, we're going to cut, and it's been at all these different sites, anywhere from in Wichita, Emporia, Salina, Hutchinson, Hayes, or Colby, Dodge City. All these different sites have been approved, have been sites. Now they're going to trim all that down, and they're only going to have it at 4 different places. Probably Coke Arena, Tony Pizza's Event Center, the Hutchinson Sports Arena, and we'll say Emporia. Those are going to, once again, I'm not trying to bash any other towns or any other state. No, I'm not bashing Colby or Dodge or anything. Let's just throw those 4. So now they're only going to have 4 sites for state basketball, it sounds like, because they're going to cut the number of teams that are going to these sites in half. They're not going to do that. They're going instead, the quarterfinal round of state is going to be played, from what I can see, closer to home is what they're saying. Higher seed playing their opening round game closer to home. But I don't know what that means. I don't think that means they're going to get to host the quarterfinal game. I don't think, like, if you're a top seed, like, for example, Colby girls basketball this year, I believe they were the 6th seed, so it didn't really matter. But let's go back a couple of years. Let's go back to the year Goodland cowgirl basketball. I think they were 26-0, or sorry, not 26, 23-0. And they were, I think, were a 3 seed, but they were a higher seed. So according to this, if this rule had been in place, they would have played the first round game of state somewhat closer to home. Now, the thing that's ridiculous to me is that this works okay on the eastern side. It doesn't work great on the western side, the way I read it. It doesn't work great on the western half, because let's just, for example, Goodland boys and Riverton played in the first round of state, not this last year, but in 23-24. So March of 24, they played state, and it was Riverton is who they were playing. And those games, Riverton and Goodland were separated by like 9 hours, or 9 hours, how many hours? 6 hours of driving. It was a long ways. They were pretty much opposite ends of the state, one in the southeast corner, one in the northwest corner. So that thing doesn't work well. It doesn't matter who the higher seed is. They're trying to play in more of a neutral site game. So what, are we going to meet in McPherson and play there? Is that where we're going to play that quarterfinal game? I don't know. Is it just because it's becoming too expensive to run 6 different sites and have all the teams come to the state tournament? Instead, now we're going to cut that down, and we're going to play the quarterfinal games at a neutral site, more than likely, maybe somewhat closer to the higher seed, but you're going to play a neutral site game, and then the winners advance on to the state tournament where there's a Final Four, and that's where you're going to play your 4 state. You'll have probably, like, let's just say 3A and 4A playing in Hutchinson, for example. That's where the state tournament will be at 3 and 4A. And this has not been approved. I'm just throwing things out there. So then they're going to have, they'll still have 8 teams, I guess, coming to the event, to an event center, but they're going to be from 2 separate classifications. That's how I read that. Now, once again, I could be reading that wrong and misunderstanding that, but that is how I read that at this point in time. But yeah, I don't know. It's just an interesting. I don't know. I think it's an interesting move here. I don't know why they're doing that. Once again, I could see it being a budget crunch to having 6 different facilities, or how many ever classifications you need. I guess 7 different facilities you need to open up and Dodge and all those different spots. I get that, but now you move it down into 4. But the first round games are going to be played at more than likely neutral site games, unless you're getting a game, between like 2 teams that are pretty close together in the quarterfinals, which I don't know how often that happens, but then you're going to play closer to the top seed. Like I said, I don't know how that's all going to work. I don't really know how that's going to work. I'll be fascinated to see how that works. Really fascinated to see that. To me, that was the biggest change out of all the things that are coming here in the next couple of years. So, once again, the Acacia board is going to move the quarterfinal round to a select group of neutral sites. So I guess they already have the neutral sites picked out. So neutral site games are going to be played at a different event arena, and then the semifinals and finals will be played at another arena. That's how I read that. And I guess the arenas will be selected on where they can play, and then the higher seed will get to be closest to a certain arena. I guess that's how that works. I don't know. That's very fascinating to me. Very fascinating. But that's how I see that panning out here next year. We'll see how it goes. But anyway, we're way past time. We got to get to a break. real quickly here on the text line. Jared chiming in. Does that mean Colby loses the ability to host a state tournament? Like I said, Jared, I don't know. But the way I read this is that they're going to cut down the number of places that they're going to have the state tournament final for, is what I would call it. They're going to cut down those. There will be a total of 4 sites around the state for semifinals and finals. So they're going to cut those down. My guess is the event center is probably still going to be a place. It still might be a state tournament place for finals and semifinals, but I don't know about that for sure, but I would guarantee it's probably going to be a place they can host quarterfinals. That's how I see it. Now, once again, like I said, you get in some of these situations, and it's particularly in the lower seeds where, if you get in between 4A down to 1A D2, there's a lot of schools playing all over the state. And so I don't know how you're going to have a neutral. You're going to have you're going to have Goodland. If Goodland's a high seed, for example, or Colby a high seed, they're going to host it somewhere in Colby or Hayes. Is that where they're going to host it and have the other team drive 5 hours? I don't know. I don't quite know. It's a fascinating thing, though, because that's going to start here. It's going to be happening here over the next couple of years. I think after not this year, but the following, they're going to start this movement where they're going to have quarterfinals at separate sites and then the semifinals and finals at other sites. The way it's looking like to me. We'll see how it all pans out. It'll be interesting. I'll have to get a hold of Marty Lehman, get his thoughts on that, because I'm sure he's got some thoughts. But and maybe I'm misrepresenting that information, but that's how I read it. So no longer are we going to have, I think, 8 teams at each classification at a state tournament. Like, for example, Colby hosting 8 girls teams and 8 boys teams. Now, instead, you might have 8 teams of girls and boys, but it's going to be from 1AD1 and 1AD2 might be going to Colby. But I don't know if Colby's going to be one of those spots to get approved for the state championship, for the finals and championship, or for the semifinals and championship games. I don't know if that's going to be their side or not. We'll see. All right, there you go. There's some big changes coming to Acacia and athletics after the board met up, and those are the changes coming up for the next couple of years. Once again, shot clock, some big changes to state basketball, football numbers, and volleyball times and scheduling there for state volleyball. All right, let's get to break. We'll come back. We're way past due. Ryan Mosier will hopefully join us next. You're listening to the Morning Blitz here on Thursday.
Get ready for powerful deals at Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland, Kansas. Right now, drive home a 25 GMC Sierra 1500 Turbo Max with 0.9% financing or up to $7,800 in purchase allowance. Step up in luxury in a 2025 Sierra 1500 Denali and get up to $5,250 in purchase allowance. Or take on any job with the 25 Sierra 2500 with 3.9% APR or up to $2,700 in purchase allowance. These offers won't last. Rush into Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland today or shop online at hurlchev.com.
It's time for a check of the markets with the Anderson Trade Group on the Kansas Farm and Ranch Radio Network.
Good morning, this is Kate Thompson with the Anderson's Trade Group. Today is Tuesday, April 29th. On the overnight last night, May corn unchanged at $4.75 1/2. July down 1/4 cent at $4.83. September down 1 1/4 at $4.40 1/4. December corn down 1 1/4 at $4.49. Soybeans down at 4 1/2 on the overnight at $10.47 1/2. July down 3 1/2 at $10.59. August down 3 1/4 at $10.51 1/4. September beans down 4 cents at $10.27 1/2. Chicago wheat, the May contract higher 3 3/4 at $5.19 1/4. July up 4 cents at $5.35. September up 4 1/4 at $5.15 1/4. December up 4 1/2 at $5.74. Kansas City wheat, the May contract higher 2 3/4 at $5.27 1/2. July up 3 cents at $5.42 3/4. September up 2 1/4 at $5.57 1/4. December hard wheat up 2 1/4 at $5.81 1/2. On the stock market this morning, the Dow up $68 at 40,436. The S&P down 15 at 5,537. The Nasdaq down $70 at 19,456. Gold lower at $24 an ounce at 3,324, and crude oil down $1.17 a barrel at $60.88. If you have any questions about marketing grain or would like to talk about risk management options, give our Colorado office a call. John Hanke or John Stiles at 970-744-4484. Or in our Kansas City office, myself, Tom Slito, Jared Law, or Tyler Ghosh at 913-748-3000.
The Anderson Trade Group, proud market partners with Kansas Farm and Ranch Radio. Find out more at andersongrain.com. The risk of loss through trading futures and or options is substantial, and each investor and or trader must
provides cleaner air. For the shopper who buys local, E15 has more ethanol from our Kansas corn farms. Choose E15 for a higher octane, lower price, and cleaner American fuel. This message from the Kansas Corn Commission. Learn more at kscorn.com.
The region's only local sports talk.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
The Morning Blitz with Ross Volkmer.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, here we go. Feeling in my soul. Really need it.
20 minutes to the top of the hour on a Tuesday morning. Mostly sunny skies and a chilly start to the day here outside the KKCI studios. 39 degrees, way to a high of 65, so about 10 degrees cool. I tell you, it got in the evening last night. Once the sun kind of started to go down, I'm telling you, it got really cool really quick. That's one thing I noticed. But going to get up to the mid-60s. Today should be a beautiful day with sunshine. Don't forget, folks, to go to nwksradio.net. We are coming up on Saturday. That is the big concert there at the Colby Event Center with the front men. So a great concert coming up. Make sure you get your tickets once again at nwksradio.net. Tickets now at nwksradio.net. Once again, I remind folks of the story that Paul Heskett told me. He goes, I went and saw these guys in Salina, and I paid $65 to go sit in the back row, and we're going to charge, what is it? Just $30 for a floor seat. I mean, why? What a deal. Once that's true. Thanks to our sponsors, we're able to get these great ticket prices to see a great group, over 30 number one hit singles between the frontmen of Little Texas. So should be a good one. Yeah, you like my, Jared, you like my, I could do a better Paul impression if I tried, but we'll have to do that another time. Waiting patiently on the other end of the Hoover Lumber Hardware Hotline is our good friend from Colby High School, football coach and track and field coach, Ryan Bozier. Good morning, sir. How are we doing today?
Good. How are you guys?
Doing well. Doing really well, Coach. How has the spring been treating you? Been treating you guys well?
Yeah, it has. We've really caught some good weather, which I've been excited about. And now we're kind of into the part of the season where it's just kind of a sprint to the end of May. So we're excited to get going.
What are the first couple of weeks like, for when practice gets going, and you've got the girls are still at state basketball, the guys are just kind of coming off basketball season. What are the first couple of weeks like, and how much improvement is made from that point to where we are pretty much right in the middle of the season?
I think the biggest improvement you see is the kids that didn't play a winter sport. They come out and get about 2 weeks under their belt before the winter sport kids show up. And so you see a bunch of improvement. There's been a little bit of an adjustment this year, just with how many numbers we have out. And so it's been kind of a learning experience for the coaching staff, but I feel like we've handled it well. And now we're moving into the main part of the season.
What is those adjustments that the coaches have had to make, or the learning that you guys have had to do? Can you expand upon that a little bit more?
Well, it's just the amount of kids that we have. So last year, I think we finished with, 48, 50, somewhere in there. And, we started with 68. I think we're at about 65 now. And so it's just how you make practice worth it for everybody. And, you're just sharing more reps, which takes a little more time, but I feel like our staff did a good job of adjusting.
Isn't it a good thing though, when you look at the roster and it's growing, and you're only in your second year of this? I mean, that's got to make you feel good as a coach and as a staff.
Yeah, it's a great thing. And really it's a testament to the kids who went out and, if they had friends that weren't going to play a spring sport, they went and recruited. And so, it's really good to see those numbers grow. And I think that's, if you want to be successful at the end of the day, it takes numbers.
When you get new kids in, do you ask them like, hey, what do you want to do? Or is it more of those deals like, hey, we're going to try at these different things, these first few meets, and we'll see where you maybe succeed, and then we'll go from there?
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of where we end up. It just depends on the kids. Some of them coaches might have an idea for what we wanted to recruit them for. But most of the time we just kind of see what their interests are and try to build upon that.
Ryan Mosier is our guest, head coach of the Colby High School track and field team. What is different about track and field from your time as a youngster to now being the coach and seeing these other kids? What do you think has changed the most, if anything?
Oh, I would say back in the time where you and I went to high school, it was you did 4 events and you tried to load everything that you could, and maybe you ended up in stuff that you didn't want to be in and things like that. And, I think we do a lot better job of taking care of bodies. I think we do a better job of keeping kids fresh and not wearing them down throughout the season so we can peak at the end. So I think that's probably the main difference, is there's a little more specialization, but there's still, in 2 or 3 events at least.
How do you change up practice from, like you said, you're talking about maybe after those first couple of meets? How do you change up practice, if at all, now as you get in the middle part of the real meat of the schedule? Do you lighten things up, or do you push hard in other areas? What do you do?
Well, it just kind of depends on what we need. If we need to push and grow, we can. Sometimes the best way to peak at the end is to lighten things up and take care of the body and make sure we're not overdoing it. So, I think at the end of the day, it just varies depending on what event you're in.
Once again, we're visiting with Ryan Mosier, Colby High School track and field coach. Guy Tubbs has been a really good athlete for you guys for many, many years. Of course, he's the defending state champion in the javelin. How has he improved here over this first month or so of the season to get ready to try and defend that state title?
I think the thing that makes Guy Tubbs good is that he is just consistent. He's consistently working to improve. You get the same guy every day, no pun intended, but he's just a really consistent, disciplined kid, and I think that pays off for him at the end of the season.
Who have been some athletes that have really started to improve? You feel have shown a lot of improvement here over this track season to this point in time.
I would say in the field events, the girls have really improved. That's where a lot of our points are actually coming from, is in the field events. So, we have some jumpers, some high jumpers that are really improving. And then in the jav, Allie and Allison are really, really picking it up. And so I think the girls field events, that's really picked it up. And the boys on the track, Jordan Jones is pretty talented, and he's really starting to figure out those hurdles. Hayden Litzenberger, who signed at CCC, is really starting to pick it up. He's trying to decide whether he's a distance or a sprinter, but he's good enough to do both. So, I've seen a lot of improvement with some kids this year.
That's funny. A guy that has to choose between distance or sprinter. Usually you're either one or the other. So that's kind of an interesting situation that Hayden's in.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know. That's amazing to me. Usually, your body's telling you, well, we're meant for distance, or no, you're going to, yeah, you don't usually see. He needs to be in the decathlon apparently, or something like that if you had it.
Yeah. If we had that in high school, it'd be good for him. What I know is I never had to make those decisions. So, it's kind of fun to take the journey with them.
Yep, you and me both. We were just set in the right spot there, Coach. Ryan Mosier is our guest here, Colby High School track and field coach. You guys had a really good showing down at a very good meet down at the Scott City Relays, and if you consider that momentum, I mean, where are you looking to improve upon here over the next couple of meets here this week?
We really like the Scott Relays. It's a good view of what we're going to see at regional. We were only missing a few teams off of that. So, I think what we want to improve is continuing to stay healthy and working on just getting faster through this cycle one more time. So we'll push them a little bit moving forward, but we move to next week where we have 2 meets, and then the following week we're getting closer to league. And so it's just making sure the bodies stay healthy through multiple track meets.
It's not a long season. I mean, the track and field, spring sports in general are not a long season. It's pretty much a month and a half, and it's over for the most part. How do you judge the pushing of getting athletes to hit their peak at the right time versus, possibly not pushing too hard and possibly having an accidental injury happening or something like that?
Yeah, it all kind of starts with how well conditioned we show up. So winter athletes are usually conditioned, but it's a little bit different on the track. But it's conditioning to start with, and get that base conditioning underneath us, and then being able to tweak some things and slow down towards the end to stay healthy. But form and conditioning is a really big part of that first part of the year, and now we're just gonna get out and get good at what we're doing.
What are some of the areas you hope to see the most improvement here, or you feel like have the most potential for improvement?
I would say our boys 4x4. I think we have a chance to go fight. We got to cut a little bit of time. The relay is always a good time just because it has more of that team sport feel. And then as the meets get warmer, it seems like times kind of get knocked down a little bit. And so we're excited for the sprinters. Just because once you get out in the sun, you feel a little bit faster. That's what they tell me anyway.
You never experienced that as yourself?
Nope.
He's the head coach of the Colby High School track and field team. That's Ryan Mosier. Coach, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. Really appreciate your insight, and good luck with the upcoming weeks of the season, okay?
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Once again, that's Ryan Mosier, head coach of the Colby High School track and field team, joining us on the Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware hotline. Yeah, Eagles having a solid year this year and look to continue to improve upon that here over the next couple weeks. And then a week from this Friday, they will have their home Colby Track Invitational. So mark that on your calendar. It's always a good meet there. I did see some semi-breaking news here while Coach Mosier was on with us. Let's get to that. I know I find this fascinating, but Norton High School will have a new football coach coming up here next year. I did not know this, but Jeremy Hawks is going to take over he's been assistant coach there for Lucas Melvin, former Colby High School grad, and was a longtime coach there for Norton football. He is deciding to step down apparently or retire. And so Jeremy Hawks will replace him. But boy, what a great career. Coach Melvin did a phenomenal job with Norton football for so many years. He was fantastic up there. I know a lot of our area teams face Norton at the 11-man level. And so Coach Melvin stepping down, and Jeremy Hawks will be the new head football coach for the Blue Jays next season. Interesting. Okay, let's get to break. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the show with some thoughts, including the Rockies making some history last night. That's next in the Morning Blitz.
Spring is in full swing at Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware. Get your lawn.
Oakley, member FDIC.
Catch up on all the latest headlines, scores, and interviews from the region. This is the Morning Blitz with Ross Volkmer, your daily dose of sports.
Ryan Mosier, Coach Mosier, he comes during the break. I talked to him saying thank you, and he goes, "Well, I'm excited to be a part of breaking news right there. I didn't know that Coach Melvin stepping down at Norton. I didn't know it either, but I wish I don't know if Coach Melvin is leaving for the job or retiring. I don't know, but Jeremy Hawks taking over for him from what I've saw, and no matter what, Coach Melvin did a great job up there at Norton. Congratulations to him on whatever he's got cooking up next. Great coach there. And his brother, of course, Lynn, had a great year with Hayes girls basketball. Unfortunately, losing the first round of the state tournament, but had a great season. Did the Lady Indians of Hayes High basketball. And they'll be around again next year. They got plenty of good players. They'll be doing that again, more than likely. Okay, real quick, some local sports before we get to some not breaking news, but news with the Rockies. Really good tournament yesterday down in Cimarron. Goodland Golf was down there. So was Colby. It was one of the tighter top finishes of a tournament we've seen to this point in time in the year. Cowboys came in third place, but they only finished 3 strokes behind the tournament winners from South Gray, who is a powerhouse, by the way. South Gray is a phenomenal golf program, but they shot a 321, did South Gray, to win the tournament. Syracuse came in second with a score of 323. So those two teams had great days, and Goodland shot a 324, still a pretty good score, finishing there in third place, led by the 77 put up by senior Barrett Schlosser, who finished in fourth place individually. Colby finished in fourth place as a team, a distant fourth place. I think they finished with 361, and once again, Goodland finished in third with 324. But Colby placed fourth, led by Caleb Dixon. He finished in seventh place individually with a 79. So a very close and competitive, interesting golf tournament down at Cimarron yesterday. Hoxie Golf Invitational today. A lot of the smaller schools going to that. Quinter, Oakley, Wallace County be at the Hoxie Golf Invite today. Regular season came to an end for the Jayhawk Conference softball teams yesterday. Lady Trojans split with Garden City. CCC struck out 10 times in game 1, lost 11-5. Game 2, Bailey Jackson hit 2 long balls and helped the Colby Eagles come from behind to win 11-8. Then Colby, they're going to head into the Region 6 tournament here on Friday is when it gets going. May the 2nd is when that'll get cooking. I believe that's down in Dodge City is where that is. They will go in there 30-25 overall in conference play at 11-21. I'll look and see what their I don't know if they have the brackets out yet, but I know I can at least go look at the seedings of where they are. I'll pull that up here real quick. Softball standings. There we go. Let's see. Colby sitting in the 6th spot at this point in time, below Garden City, but ahead of Seward and Pratt. And Fort Hays Tech Northwest, who's not going to make the postseason. Once again, only the top. There's 9 teams in the Region 6 West side, and only the top 8 advance. And so Tech, who lost to Pratt 11-3 and 15-1, they end their season winless. They went 0-44. Very, very tough season for Tech Tiger softball. There will be baseball and softball today played. Goodland is at home today, both softball and baseball at home today. You can come out there to Centennial Park or Ray Dye Field and go and watch both the Cowboys and the Cowgirls host the Beavers from Scott City. I will have coverage of Goodland Cowboy baseball for Senior Day. That is on Goodland's Rocket 1025. We'll have Goodland and Scott City today, beginning at around 2:40 Mountain Time with pregame, getting you set for that series against the Beavers. See if the Cowboys can bounce back after taking a couple of tough losses to a really good Holcomb team. This should be a very evenly matched game. I think this is a toss-up between both these two teams. We'll see. I know Scott City's had a couple of really good wins, like against Colby. They've also struggled with some teams at times. Goodland's kind of in the same boat. We'll see if they can bounce back against Scott City. And then Goodland hosting Scott in softball. Been a tough year for Scott City softball. Graduated a lot of pieces. We'll see if the Cowgirls can take advantage of that. By the way, Adam Kadavy, our good friend, from Mix 95. He'll actually have coverage of that softball series here. He's coming up to cover that for Scott City. So if you want to tune in or tell people to listen into Adam, he'll have coverage on the radio in Scott City of Goodland Scott City softball while I have baseball. And then Colby softball and baseball. Colby softball at Cimarron, which ought to be should be a decently competitive series, I would think. And then Colby Cimarron baseball, that is hosted in Colby is where that's going to be. Also, Scott City is the place for tennis today. Goodland and Colby heading there for some tennis. And also today is the St. Francis track invite as well. The Rockies they made some history last night. They lose 6-3 to the Braves. God, this stings. Hunter Goodman had a 3-run bomb in the first inning. The Rockies are up 3-0. Here we go. Maybe they're going to get a win. I doubt that's how I would think if I was a Rockies fan. Personally, I wouldn't think that. But here we go. We got off to a good start. And the Braves slowly chipped away. By the 4th, they had pulled ahead for good on a Michael Harris II double in the 5th. Colorado has dropped 7 straight games, 15 of their last 16, they're 4-24. And in a history-making stat for the Colorado Rockies with that 4-24 start, it is the worst start to a season by any National League team in the 149 years of National League Baseball. The worst start ever belongs to the Colorado Rockies. 4-24, the worst start ever in the National League. Wow. Absolutely wow. Rockies, we'll see if they can get a win. We'll see if they can get it done. They play once again against the series against the Braves, 6:40 Mountain Time on AM 730 KLOE. After a day off, the Royals in Tampa tonight, opening up a 3-game series against the Rays. Michael Lorenzen on the bump for KC. First pitch, 6:05 Central on AM 790 KXXX. All right, let's get on to the walk-off. We're up against the clock.
And back lifts his ball high and deep to right. How about a walk-off Gray? Thomas to the 10. Denver's going on to New England. They win it on the first play of overtime. Mahomes flings it. It's there. Hardman. Jackpot. Kansas City.
To FNB Bank text line 785-899-2222. Texter chimes in. Montfort's need to sell the team. I mean, why would they? Why would they sell? People are still showing up to games. It's a beautiful ballpark. They get beautiful weather. They own all the buildings and bars around Coors Field. So people come down there to drink, have a good time, go get a cheap ticket, watch the game. Plus, Denver's becoming kind of this melting pot of all these other teams. So you see a bunch of Cubs fans come. There's probably a ton of Braves fans there during this series watching the games. Are you kidding me? They're not going to sell the team. They're making bank despite their team sucking. That's the hard part about being a Rockies fan. The Montforts don't care that they're losing because they're still rolling in all the dough. They don't care. They're still rolling in all the dough. As long as they have a player, maybe, they tried to sign Chris Bryant. That's been a complete and absolute failure. But, as long as they have maybe one guy each and every year that does semi-decent, they're hoping that's Brenton Doyle, of course, this season. They're just going to sit on their hands. There's no reason to do that. No reason to spend money because we're making a whole bunch of money. Hands over fist. People are coming down to Denver. They're watching these games. They're having a great time. We're making money. Either they're staying there or drinking there or going to the games. We're making money if the team sucks or not. You have to completely, not go watch the Rockies in order to do this for them to possibly look at selling. It's just not going to happen. All right, that'll do it for our show. Thanks to Ryan Mosier. Appreciate him joining the show today. Missing that conversation, of course, the podcast always available, or go back and watch it on YouTube as well. We'll be back again tomorrow in 23 hours for a Wednesday edition of the morning. Let's hope you'll join us then. Have a great rest of your day. We'll catch you this afternoon for Goodland Cowboy Baseball.
This is where classic rock legends take flight. Rocket 1025.